Facebook. I am now on YouTube. Let me give you guys the link to share it with everybody, and then we'll start by introducing each other, and we'll go from there. Give me 1 second. Videos. WaBi. There. We'll go from there. Give me 1 second. Videos. Okay. Let me send you the message. Okay, that is the YouTube link, and we are live. All right. So, we are officially live on all the different platforms. And for everyone watching out there, today we have the two co-founders of WaBi. And I want to just start by, I guess, introducing you guys. And I also want to disclose that this was not a paid interview or paid review or whatnot. I think a lot of people actually always wonder whether or not it's paid, and then they think it's, you know, dishonest or disgenuine. And I guess I just reached out to you guys on Telegram. I'm an investor, and I think a lot of my channel and fans know that I invested in WaBi because I had spoken about you guys on separate videos and whatnot on previous broadcasts. So I had reached out to the co-founders and asked if they wanted to do an interview. So thank you guys very much for being generous with your time. Do you want to take a second to introduce each of yourselves?
Well, start, I guess. Sure. So my name is Yas. I'm a co-founder at WaBi.
Okay.
So if you want my professional career, or like,
yeah, how did you guys, I guess, meet, and how did WaBi start? Was it, you know, I think you guys have a little bit of history. I think it was an existing company for a bit before maybe the launch of the ICO actually started. But where did you start before, and how did WaBi come about? And then I guess the progression of, you know, blockchain technology and launching an ICO.
Right. So, I mean, the story is actually quite long because we went to the same high school together.
So it's quite a few years ago.
Awesome.
Yeah,
well,
and then we ended up in the same university as well afterwards.
Okay.
And now in the same room.
Well, that's awesome. When did the idea, I guess, of blockchain kind of spawn and offer you guys, I guess, solutions to what you were trying to build?
We had thoughts about blockchain back in 2014, 2015, and we always saw it as something of a next step at some point. Right, we saw the limitations of blockchain as well. In what we do, blockchain doesn't solve everything. Right? Blockchain, I think actually a lot of people don't realize, but blockchain is great in protecting digital assets, but when it goes to the physical objects or the physical assets, it doesn't necessarily have a link. Okay. Right? If, let's say, you want to sell houses on blockchain, right, you still need a link in the country's law that would recognize the blockchain assets as, you know, the link to the real houses. In the same way with us, we want to protect physical products, and we need a link between those physical products and blockchain, the digital identity of those products on blockchain. So actually, at first, we were focusing on building that link, and that's the technology we've built with WaBi over the past a few years, and that's the one that we've tested. That's the one that we're using right now.
Yeah. Why don't you guys just back up 1 second, and for anyone that's new to the channel or new watching this that wasn't familiar with WaBi, why don't you guys just summarize briefly for anyone what exactly WaBi is, and specifically the cryptocurrency, I guess, extension of that?
I guess let me start with WaBi first. So WaBi is the base company. That's the company that we founded, and we're building a safe retail channel. So it's a channel for safe products. So if you find something from this channel, you know that it's safe, you know that it's not fake, you know that you're not going to get sick from it. And that's where the supply chain blockchain and the RFID labels that we're using are coming in. Now, retailers often have a loyalty program, you know, just like airlines would have it, or the hotels would have it as well. So WaBi is the company that's building the loyalty program for our retail channel. So the WaBi token itself is a loyalty point.
Okay.
In that retail channel. So we actually often get confused with some of the other rather blockchain companies where the token that they use, it's more of an enabler of the blockchain infrastructure. So just like in Ethereum, right? Ether is a unit of payment for any kind of infrastructure service that Ethereum network gives you, right? It's for execution of the contracts, for transfers, etc. For us, that's not the case. For us, the WaBi is not paying for the usage of our blockchain. For us, WaBi is a loyalty point that us as a platform or the companies are rewarding the users, i.e. the final consumers, for certain actions. That being either scanning of the products because it's important for the security of the system, or essentially any marketing actions. You know, buying the first product, buying the second one, bringing friends, all of the standard stuff that companies are giving loyalty points for.
But I mean, kind of to roll back a bit, it's a retail channel, and WaBi is a loyalty program. We want to step back and sort of the core technology. So what WaBi does essentially is we create a link between, again, as we were saying before, between a physical asset and its digital representation.
Okay.
And this is a secure link, and so the label works sort of. The physical features of the label allows kind of to be sure that the things which are reflected in the blockchain are the same things that you can see like in the physical world, right? So that nothing has been substituted, and that things that you see is actually things that are there, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Because for example, if you just use a simple I don't know, an RFID which you attach to a piece of clothing, nothing prohibits you from sort of cutting it down, placing it on a fake piece of clothing or some other piece of clothing. And because the data will be the same, then this fake piece of clothing will be identified as genuine. Just because this link between this physical asset and its digital representation is not secure. So what we do, we're not making sort of a huge, I mean, our promise is much more narrow. So we're working with a narrow subset of goods that we're protecting. But with these goods, if essentially the label authenticates, it means that what you're dealing with in your whatever digital management system or as a consumer when you're authenticating something, you're sure that what you're seeing in your interface is what is actually there.
Well, consumer products is not a small subset, that being said.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it's a smaller relatively, right? So
I was actually curious, so I wanted to ask, I know that from reading your guys' white paper and I watched one of the videos, I think, of you, Alex, opening up a jar of, I forget what it was, maybe it was food, but I know that you guys are initially focused, it sounded like, on the baby food market. And why don't you just talk a little bit more about what your direction is and what kind of markets you are attempting to get into? And is that baby food solely in China? Is that across the world? And are there other markets that you would look to be expanding to after that? And what's kind of your focus in the market that you're trying to use it for? So
we expanding in the markets where it makes sense, right? So our initial focus was, and this is where most of the technology and infrastructure and the contacts were developed, it was in baby food. We've been selling for a bit now, and baby food is the first one. Now with the immediate expansion, we've been getting a lot of requests from multiple companies, from medical devices to food additives to protective clothing to all sorts. We're kind of being careful in terms of starting to work with the companies, because you don't want to run in front of the horse, and you want to make sure that you progress in the natural order, right? So the next one that is making sense for us, and that's what we're working on right now, is extending the product portfolio into cosmetics and alcohol. With cosmetics, the few stores that we recently signed up, it's a small chain in the west of China. They actually focus on cosmetics, but when we told them about the baby food, they got very excited. But the baby food, because essentially for them, it's the same consumer, so it makes perfect sense that they're going to start selling our baby food as well. Now, the next one is going to be cosmetics, and we already have the shops to start selling the cosmetics through. The number of shops that we signed up in the west of China is 7, which is not big, but it essentially gives us a very quick chance to pilot the program and test the product, make sure it works for us, make sure it works for the consumers. There's no bugs, there's no glitches, all of that. And once that works fine, it's a good showcase to anyone bigger. Some companies try to go straight for the big ones, and then you can sign an MOU, but then it's much harder to build a product that will work well. If you're doing it step by step, say with a small one, there's a much bigger chance of success. So that's on cosmetics. And on alcohol, there's a few companies that we're talking to. One, we reached a preliminary agreement with already to start a program to test the usage of WaBi with them.
Okay.
And they're the ones that are selling alcohol here in China right now. Now, the other kind of extension which goes slightly away from China is actually pharma. With pharma, it's a lot more global. With food and alcohol, there's a problem in China. There are problems in other parts of the world, but they're slightly different. Like in the US, I was speaking to someone from more medical area yesterday. The person told me about a lot of problems with food, but those are more of the problems with manufacturers cheating, right? They try to add all sorts of stuff. He was saying, well, they would add cocaine into your food just to make sure that you buy it, right? That's pretty much a quote from the person. But that's not the problem that we're solving, right? The problem that we're solving is the fakes problem. That's when a product says it's A, but it's actually B. Yeah. So with food, it's not really the problem that would be solving in the US. However, in the US, I hear a lot of problems with some of the pharma products like Viagra, right? In Africa, there's a huge problem with pharmaceuticals. From a lot of our supporters, we hear about a big problem in India. I know from a few friends, there's a problem with pharma in Russia. So that's a global one. So this is where there's a slightly different scale where we need to operate, and pretty much that's what we're working on right now as well.
Awesome. Where do you guys? I know I saw some. I don't know what you can or can't share. I know I saw in your Telegram, I think it was you who announced that you were in discussions with some other partnerships and potential, well, exactly that, partnerships. And is there anything in the works that you're hoping to, whether it's different cryptocurrencies in the space to project, companies in China, companies outside of China that you're eyeing up to partner with? That you could share.
well, we have, the calendar has been full for the past 3 weeks in terms of meetings and discussions. So there are discussions.
Okay.
And, but again, we will we'll reveal them once we're able to reveal them.
Gotcha.
It's a two-party process there, right? So,
that's one side of the argument. The other one is it's a bit of a DNA thing here. There's a lot of companies, especially in crypto, do things for the hype.
Yeah.
It's not that hard to sign a non-binding MOU that doesn't mean much, right? And I think for a lot of companies, they find it fine. But as an anti-fake company, we kind of feel uncomfortable, right? It's not enough DNA to do any hype which feels fake. So when I'm
There's a good question I'm just reading on YouTube from Nicholas. He asks, what stops anybody from copying this idea? So what do you think makes WaBi proprietary? I thought it was a good question. What do you think makes it so proprietary, and what makes you guys unique?
Well, there's two different questions. One is uniqueness, and one is the being able to copy the idea. It's possible to copy the idea. You copy the idea, and then it becomes a normal business competition. Who gets there first, who gets the first scale, who gets the most customers, etc.
So you can copy the search engine, for example.
Yeah, you can
make electric cars. Nothing stops you.
Yeah, that's fine. Electric car is an idea that's been there for a while. I think people try to.
So what makes you guys then the guys to be doing what you're doing? What makes you special, or what's offered, or what do you offer that's unique and feel that your value proposition is over some of your competitors? And what, if there are any competitors at the moment, whom would they be? And yeah, who would they be, and what makes you guys unique from them?
So in terms of the uniqueness, there's a few things. One is we actually went for a very safe model of the labels.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of companies that do it with just a normal RFID.
Okay.
That doesn't call an RFID, even though companies claim otherwise. A lot of companies here in China try to use QR codes, saying, well, it's a unique QR code, so it helps against fakes. Well, it doesn't. Something that's unique doesn't mean that it cannot be copied or cloned.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we're different from other companies. We actually went for the safe solution, which takes longer to implement and takes longer for people to understand,
Mm-hmm.
but that's something that actually works. And once it works, people are very happy with it. So that's one. Second one is the business model. We see most, if not all, of the companies in the space going for the B2B model.
Yeah.
So what they just try to approach the big companies
Get
and say,
partnerships.
yeah, get partnerships, and we'll do something with you in the supply chain, we'll secure a supply chain, etc., which is, we believe, not the right way to go. The value proposition, the biggest value of the whole thing is actually with the consumer.
Yeah.
Focusing on the consumer is a much better way to go, and other companies or other leaders don't see it yet, which is absolutely fine with us. It just gives us more time.
That's something I actually wanted to ask about too. Like, so I guess there's a lot of questions in the chat, and I'm sure you guys get asked all the time. Some of the differences between your some of the other cryptocurrencies in the space that deal with supply chain management. I think 2 or 3 that come to mind are Walton and VeChain, and I think that you kind of started to comment on that when you said, at least from my understanding, I think you guys are more B2C, whereas I think VeChain and Walton are more B2B. From my understanding, is that anything that you want to elaborate on? Because I know it's definitely a question that a lot of other people have, and I'm sure you probably have been asked at some point.
Well, basically, I think that, again, there are 2 different questions here. The first one is business model, and the related question is the usage of the token in this business model. So in terms of business models, yeah, I mean, there is clear difference between us, because I don't think they do anything B2C.
Okay.
And, as far as we know. So, I mean, we haven't seen any other protected products on the shelves anyway in China, although we constantly keep it an eye for them. So now is the use of the token. So, for instance, like a couple of days ago, we had our first purchase of our product through WaBi. Right? So, a person accumulated enough WaBi by scanning, by buying things in the channel. So, what is kind of info formula from us with WaBi. So here the usage is again. So this is a consumer who's given WaBi for doing something that we want him to do, and then using it in the channel essentially to redeem this benefits of WaBi. So here's all this B2C thing carries on all the way to the user, to the token circulation. When it goes to B2B, then it becomes not as clear cut as in our case it is, because, for example, when you make a partnership with some company, then they will not necessarily want to integrate WaBi, not WaBi, but your token into the whole into the system, if you want, right? So for us, WaBi serves as an incentive for the consumer to scan. But when some company wants to use your service, why would they buy your token? I mean, okay, so you say that this is the only token that you accept payments in, but say this is a partnership with the government. The government, you make them buy cryptocurrency, their own stance is against cryptocurrency. It becomes a bit tricky of how you approach these things, you see. So I guess that's one of the main differences. We try to make it as simple as possible in terms of what a model which makes it scalable for us without any additional hiccups.
Some of the additional reasons why we didn't want to go into the usage of the token as the infrastructure enabler for the blockchain is what we saw as the potential problems later on. Right? What Yaroslav was describing, like if you deal with the government, what the government will be buying tokens to pay for the blockchain. That's a bit tricky already. But then, even if you think of the companies and internal processes, the big companies that deal with budgets. Now you've got you're basically asking them to pay, let's say, X number of tokens for the use of the supply chain. Okay, that's fine, but the budgets are not going to be in the tokens, right? The budgets are going to be fiat currency. But then the tokens rise in price. So then the budget that the company made and approved by several levels and all that, it goes down the drain. It's a nightmare for anyone within a big company. So that becomes an additional problem, right? So I kind of see that it becomes very tricky once it really starts to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of the reasons, essentially, why we denominated WaBi in USD when we did our ICO.
Yeah.
Because most of our expenses are in the non-crypto space, and so we wanted to make sure that our budget was covered. So we raised the exact amount we needed for our business expansion, and not the exact amount of assets which would be going all over the place.
And following to what I was saying previously, you might ask, why would we not have the same problem with the loyalty program? Right? Would the companies be willing to budget for the loyalty program, and then token rises or falls in price, then it affects their budgets? Well, no, because the way that we built the system, it works fine with fiat essentially. So if the company has a certain marketing budget, let's say 10 million US that they want to spend on marketing, and let's say the tokens are at, let's say, $10, right? Then roughly they plan to spend 1 million tokens and get that 1 million tokens or 10 million US dollars in value to the consumers over a year. Fine. And let's say the token is up in value and it's $20 per token. Okay, fine. Then the company will still be spending this 10 million and passing it through the tokens. It's just that when they're passing it through the tokens, it's not going to be 1 million tokens, it's going to be 500,000 tokens. It's going to be passed to the consumer. So for the company, it still works. For us, it still works. That's the model that we're building. For the consumer, it still works because they were getting a certain value in terms of rewards for what they do when they buy.
In terms of real goods.
In terms of real goods, they were getting access, still getting the value back. So it works absolutely fine.
I see a lot of questions related, just browsing through them, and related to kind of China and cryptocurrency. And the question I here had written down is hurdles that you guys might face. Is there anything related? Well, what are your hurdles in general? I know some people commenting on China and cryptocurrency and the relationship between it and how they like it. And even aside from that, if there are none, what are some of the biggest challenges you guys have had in these last couple of months and going forward?
Well, we've finished the ICO, what's the 18th, a month and a half ago. Right? So, ICO itself was pretty busy period, so most intelligence were related to the ICO then, and now it's building up and strengthening the team and growing the business, right? And now it's all got very operational. We are on the phone with companies, with agencies, with hiring agencies, design agencies, whatnot, constantly to push this business fast. Because one thing that we realized is that we opened up a lot with the ICO, right? Because you need to be public, you need to speak about the business, you need to speak about the difference. So I'm sure now there's a lot more competition that we don't even yet know about, right? It's just in surface yet. So now it's all about the speed, and making sure that we move fast is super, super important.
Yeah.
The biggest hurdle is to make other people who are not with WaBi team but who are our other partners or our agencies, whatever, move as fast as we want them to.
Yeah, we tend to be on a different gear with a lot of the outside companies. They ask us, how long does it take? Like, we'll send it tomorrow. Like, we need a week to sign an NDA. Oh, come on.
Yeah.
You have to push.
It's tough. Where are you guys based out of, and where are offices? Do you have plans to expand to other places? You mentioned up a lot of the funds and stuff will be used to develop things and hopefully get things moving along. Where are your plans to be and open offices, if any future ones?
So right now, the operations are in Shanghai, in Singapore, in Jersey, and in Minsk in Belarus. There's the plus the warehouse operations in Netherlands, right? That's where we put labels on the product.
Gotcha.
So that's where we are, and we Oh, Ningbo is the other warehouse, yeah. And that's pretty much where we're happy with the locations right now, and growing the team. Most of it will be growing here in Shanghai and some in Singapore. And with the growth of the locations, it's going to be a lot more about the sales team now. So speak about the sales team, especially with our focus on the smaller cities in China. That's where the fakes problem is bigger. A lot of the I wouldn't say it's new offices, but it's more, you know, having people in a particular city for salespeople. And as people are going to go door to door to all the baby stores and other retail locations to bring WaBi to as a safe channel to what they do. Right?
Yeah,
that's the team that we're working on building up right now. So let's see where we are in the next month.
Okay. This is actually related to baby questions. There's just a question in here on the YouTube channel. Someone asks, were baby formula and baby food in general, was that the primary purpose for you guys creating WaBi, or did it stem from something else and then shift that way or pivot into that, or was it something else to start?
Well, it actually started with alcohol.
Say that again.
Alcohol.
Okay.
We at that time, none of us had children, but both of us, you know, would be drinking alcohol sometime. I think a lot less now. Yeah, I was living in Hangzhou. It's a second-tier city, about an hour from Shanghai. It's the headquarters of Alibaba is there. So I was just living there, and any time buying alcohol, even from bigger chains, I would always be worried that it may be fake. And if it's fake, you know, it's not like a fake bag, right? That you feel like you wasted some money. If it's fake, then you're sick the next day, and
you go blind.
You might go blind, yeah.
Or
you
die.
might have other problems. Yeah, you kind of get worried. And I thought, well, it's 21st century, right? There's got to be a solution to it. So started looking for a solution. As part of that, I spoke to some of the experts in the anti-counterfeiting area. That was back in 2013. And I realized that those people were still living in the 19th century. They were still talking about the holograms and how you can protect the holograms from being copied. And it was like, come on, you know, no one cares about the holograms. No one distinguishes if it's a real one or a fake one. So we thought, well, this industry is asking for a disruption. Then we started discussing this more with Yaroslav, and that time Yaroslav was doing a project for a big food company, and told me, look, why don't we look at the baby food area? That's, you know, it's a huge market, and the problem there is even more acute, because one thing is, you know, if it's an adult drinking some fake alcohol, and okay, it's bad, but if that happens to a baby, that's a lot more serious, and that's how it moved to towards baby.
But then at the time, technology was also very different, right? So we were looking more into sort of analog, you know, different labels, but not scannable, but kind of photographable. You know? Slowly we decided to go into sort of, to go fully digital, because that just gives you a much more leeway and scalability in what you look at. But then when you go digital, when you go with anything digital, is pretty easily copied or cloned, right? So then we had to solve this problem of clonability of normal RFID chips, and then that's when we developed the dynamic data algorithm, which kind of eliminates this problem of cloning, and not just cloning, but, you know, safety of the RFID in general.
There's few levels of security on the labels. One of the core levels is this dynamic data that Yaroslav was speaking about. I'm not sure if you've seen those. This is when with every scan the data on the chip and also on the backend changes. Right? This is the same as when you log into internet banking or an exchange, Google Authenticator, or this special device that looks like a calculator always gives you a new code. Right? The idea is that that code, it's a one-time password, so it can only be used once.
So the more people scan, the more secure the system is, you see, because the faster the code changes, the less time the counterfeiter would have, even if he had, say, a quantum computer and he broke all the encryption on the normal encryption on the RFID and made 1,000 copies to make profit. You would have less and less time the more people scanned the label, because it would already just go out of sync.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's why we need WaBi, right? We need to give people an incentive to scan, because it just increases the security, trust in the system.
Gotcha. Awesome. Somebody asks on the YouTube channel, what are the products actually made by WaBi or WaLi? And maybe you can comment more on the relationship between those two entities, and how and by who are products tested for security.
I mean, the products that we are selling are not made by WaBi or WaLi. They're made by multi-billion-dollar FMCG or fast-moving consumer goods manufacturers or baby food companies. So these are the companies like Danone, Nestle, and the huge companies that manufacture the milk.
Okay.
WaLi is creating is making the technology which essentially affects the packaging. So we're kind of more in a smart packaging business than in performance itself. From that angle. And so once this the product is manufactured, we apply these labels in Europe, and we kind of have several logistics checkpoints when essentially the labels are scanned, the data is updated in terms of the location, the product is photographed to make sure that it's all clear and all safe, and all through this different checkpoints. Essentially, it's after that it's sold to the customer, to the consumer, and consumer can see all this track record of all the logistics of the products traveling from Europe, from the manufacturer essentially to households.
I have a good question that I almost forgot, and I don't think I ever found an answer to it. Maybe it's out there on the internet, but what does the logo mean? What does the frog mean to WaBi and you guys, and how did it come about?
I think Yaroslav should answer this. He would.
I mean, it's
and also, by the way, if you don't mind, I think I hear Yaroslav a little bit. I'm sorry, I hear you, Alex, a little bit better than Yaroslav, and I just see someone comment. If you can speak up a little bit louder or bring the mic closer somehow, that would be really great.
It's nothing to do with me being close or not. It's just my tempo of voice blends in with the environment. No, okay. I mean, it seriously just has to do with the wavelength. It's usual thing.
Yaroslav fits very well into feng shui.
All right, well,
I just mumble.
That's all right.
I mean, so essentially there are a lot of myths surrounding the frog that sort of emerged after the event, because the event is somewhat anticlimactic, I guess. And so at the time it was November 2013, and so we were thinking about the name, and the sort of the working name was Verify. Thought that it was just too lame, and I mean, maybe it's a good name for other businesses, but for us, we just didn't like it at some point. So we decided to give it more Chinese name, I guess, because we were going to pitch sort of American VCs at the time, and we started looking for good characters to represent ourselves. And because the color scheme that we were using for our decks were kind of orange green, we decided to carry on with this color scheme and pick an animal which we could use later as a mascot, and it kind of rhymed well with Wa, because Wa means a frog, and it was too long of a shot from Verify, so it was again mumbling, Verify, WaLi at some point, and the characters in the dictionary it all checked out. Although the meaning that we kind of attached to it came afterwards, a bit of a apocryph, I guess.
Awesome. I have another question. When are you guys expecting to launch a testnet or a mainnet in the future?
Testnet or mainnet? Oh, you mean for our supply chain?
Yeah.
Blockchain. Let's see it on the roadmap, right? We're going to publish the roadmap in the next few days.
Okay.
So I guess let's let everyone see it.
So that'll be updated. I think I saw that. I saw in your Telegram post a couple of days ago saying that there would be a new updated roadmap. So that'll be part of that.
Yeah. We'll have it there as well. I think the question that you're asking, it's a critical question in terms of product development for really the blockchain focused companies. If you was someone from Ethereum Foundation, that's a critical one. For us, that's only part of the product. Right? And it's an important, but it's not It's not really the the main core of the product. The main core of the product is the consumers being able to buy products with WaBi.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we've actually already done, and just building up the additional features, making it more beautiful. Like there's a new design that we approved yesterday that is being implemented right now. So that's something that was done. That's what we were talking about when people are already buying the products with WaBi.
Mm-hmm.
Actually buying it with WaGiFan, because it's a Chinese name for it, because of the dual system. We described it in the white paper, page 20-something. So that's already working. And then the Mainnet, we're not rushing with it. It's important that it works, but you don't want to do things.
Are you there? I have a little bit of... Oh, sorry. I missed you. Bleeped out for a second.
Sorry, I was saying that we don't want to rush too much with already using the blockchain in the supply chain, because potentially having any problems there can have long-term implications for the image in front of any of the big companies. So, yeah.
Understood. Gotcha. Are you guys looking to be listed on any other exchanges in the future?
Same answer as we a few times before. We are working on that, and we will not comment further.
Gotcha. No worries.
We promised that, well, not promised, we said that we plan to list on more than one exchange, and now we are listed, on one big one and on one that we don't like much. I'm not talking about the Delta. But yes, we plan to add other exchanges, and we're working on that, but we're not going to comment on the progress, not to create expectation.
No worries. Thomas One of the channel actually donated $2 to ask this question, and I want to thank him. He donated $2 and asks, how much does WaBi affect product price point? I'm not sure if I fully understand the question either. How much does WaBi affect product price point?
If he means like how much of a premium does the label add to the product pricing, which is passed on to the consumer, then currently we are selling at 20% premium to the market price. But this is obviously not cost driven. This is more of us testing the demand of how much the consumer is prepared to pay.
This is how much value
the consumer attaches,
there is for the consumer, and how much of that value consumers are willing to pay, which 20% on top is huge, to be honest. And FMCG companies would do that.
But this 20% is not sort of set in stone, because it will depend greatly on the sort of product category, because different products have different marginality, both for retailers and for the manufacturers.
So that's one interpretation of the question. Another interpretation may be if Thomas, right, is asking how much of an effectively discount people can get with WaBi when they're buying with WaBi. And if that's the question, then the answer would be, well, it depends on the manufacturer and the merchants on the platform. For some products, you need to give a 1% discount because it's a low margin product and you can't really give more. For some products, maybe you'll be able to give 70% discount because it's a first promo and you have huge margins that you're willing to give out. So it really depends on the product there. Generally, the discounts in trade and FMCG can be somewhere between 15 and 20%.
So in another interpretation, so if people, if they pay with WaBi, do they get any discount? So now they don't get any discount if they pay with WaBi. So WaBi, the price point is calculated at the point of transaction. It's kind of in the real time linked to the price of WaBi at the exchanges. But because they're getting free money essentially in terms of the discount, I mean, they're getting free WaBis. They're quite excited about actually paying the full price for them. But this will not be, whether it's going to be like this in the future is hard to tell now, because it's going to be a much more sophisticated system, again, depending on different marketing activities that we want to engage later on. So now it's more about sort of building the infrastructure, and as it has been built to a sufficient level, we'll start playing around with all the digital marketing techniques that our platform enables.
Okay, thank you for answering that. Another question from David on the YouTube channel asks, do token holders get exposure to the profit of the business?
Good question. Short answer, no.
Long answer? Is there an attempt in the future to maybe alter things?
Long answer, that model would actually make WaBi token a security and make it.
Gotcha. Okay. Someone asked, I think this question was asked as well earlier as well. So are the coins that you buy on the open exchange the same that you would receive for if you were to earn WaBi? Is it the same WaBi that you would buy off the open exchange?
Okay. Well, there's this dual system. I think that's what was maybe alluding to. So at the open exchange, that's the crypto token. But because of all the sensitivities of crypto in China and us being extra cautious with what we're doing, we set up a dual, like a mirror system, where in China, in English we call them WaB points that operate, where outside of China, it's WaB tokens, inside it's WaB points, and then there's a one-to-one relationship. So effectively, for us to issue one WaB point within China, we take one WaB token or WaBi from the circulation from the market. So basically, the sum of the two in circulation is always not more than 100 million, right? So
gotcha. Gotcha. And on that note, actually, regarding token supply, maybe this was, I can't remember if it was written in the white paper or not, but I know just from looking at CoinMarketCap, there's 45 million circulating WaBi coins in supply approximately, and then there's about 90 million total. What is the other 45? Is that all for the team? Is there any plans to release them, distribute them, schedule, buyback, etc.?
Well, there is, let me remember the number. So the token sale was about 46 million.
46 million?
46 million, yeah.
Okay.
And from the pre-ICO, that was 11 million tokens that were initially sold, but then I think about 70% of that was bought back. We should actually do the numbers and remember that. But about 70% of them were bought back. And the tokens that were bought back by us are placed in essentially a reserve that the company holds, and it's locked for 6 months from the ICO, though it's a date, so effectively until May. And from the other ones that were not bought back, I'm still speaking about this pre-ICO 11 million tokens, they were locked for 3 to 6 months, and most people locked it for 6 months. Again, I don't remember the exact numbers, I think like 60 or 70% as well, locked it for 6 months rather than 3 months.
From the 30%.
Yeah. So that's on the token sale. Then what else did we have? We had 35 million tokens that are escrowed as the growth reserve. So these are the tokens also held by the company, but with a specific mandate to grow the usage of the system. So those tokens are meant to be used for giving as additional or promo tokens to the consumers via the merchants to increase the usage of the whole system. You basically give a free goodie to the consumer so that they get interested, they start reading more, buying more, using it more, all of that stuff. And that's a huge reserve. I think that's an amazing effectively marketing budget that we've got, and us using it smartly is going to be one part of success. And then for the founders and the team, and the advisors, there was 8 million tokens. There was 2 million for the advisors. There was 2 million for the team and 4 million for the founders.
Okay.
In terms of how the tokens are distributed, initially we actually planned to give the tokens to team and founders over 10 months with 10% of the allocation per month, right? Almost a year. But then we saw the value of those tokens and we thought, wow, let's do it in 20 months. So we, it's way after the ICO, we changed it and we said, spoke to the team and changed it and said, look, let's do 5% per month.
Oh, that's pretty good. And it's nice to have an extra supply there for the marketing efforts. And it's been, it's certainly grown a lot. Did you expect it to grow so fast, so quick?
had no idea, right? I mean, personal feeling was telling me that it was not going to grow so fast, so quick, but we've had so much support that it's great. I think with the change of the delivery of the team and founders tokens, I hope people can see the commitment as well. Right? We didn't really have to do that, but because we thought it would make a bit more sense for the team, and no one was really concerned that I just want to sell my tokens around way, then we just did it.
Gotcha. A couple, just looking at some of the previous questions, I'm curious as well. What does the growth of the WaBi's platform look like? Its number of users, your team, and expanding. I know you mentioned that obviously you use a lot of the funds to expand. What do some of those numbers look like?
Let's look at them. Give us a few months.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, we finished last year a month and a half.
Yeah.
Now we've got a lot more of the resources, and we are busy putting them to use. So give us a few months, and let's look at those numbers then. Right now, what we had was pretty much the in pilot stages, right? So it was, we could be selling, 1,000 cans or 2,000 cans or 5,000 cans. For China, it's nothing, right? And it could be 5 times difference, but it's still nothing for China. And let's see what the progression is and how far we grow in the next few months. I think that's going to be a lot more of a telling number.
Yeah, of course. Do you guys have any plans to release a wallet in the future?
Well, effectively, there is a wallet for the consumers already, right? Because A, you're able to exchange WAB tokens into WAB points, and B, you're getting the WAB points for scanning and for buying our products. So it is a wallet. It's just not exactly the same as a crypto wallet. So it's not an account. It's an account, right? It's not. Yeah. It's not. So it's not. It's an account. So you don't hold the keys and all that. It's a bit like an account on Coinbase.
Understood. Is there then, I guess, plans to ever develop one where it is sort of like that, where in conjunction with that?
We'll think about that, but it's not in plan, because our target audience is not it's not necessarily the crypto community. Our target audience is young mothers who are buying the baby food. The gap between young mothers who are buying a baby food and someone in our Telegram group in terms of understanding crypto is huge, and the task of educating the young parents to use the crypto is not necessarily the task that we have to be solving, though I'm sure will play a role in that.
And you mentioned the roadmap is coming out, or at least an updated version, in a couple of days. Anything on the roadmap, are you able to share? What's the next sort of biggest foot or task for you guys to complete ahead in the next couple of months? If anything that you're able to announce, what is sort of the next biggest thing for WaBi?
I'd say it's very easy, actually. I mean, the critical thing now for us, we have several positions open in the company. It's to fill in those positions, and it's incredibly difficult because we have a lot of applications, and it's sort of drawing attention, but also there's a lot of noise, and we have to. It takes really a lot of time to find suitable people.
I think one of the level of difficulty comes from the fact that we're very picky with people as well. That we've got applications from. I was a bit surprised that these people would apply, but we've got applications from senior positions in big companies. Companies like the top FMCG companies. I think it would be not very fair to name the names, but you think of 5 top FMCG companies. There's probably an application from a top person in China from each one of them that we've got. But we need to be careful in terms of choosing the people, that the motivation is right. That it's going to be a senior person who comes in with a big salary and a big package, and then they kind of use for the business to flow. They don't do anything. I think we're going to subject him to the restaurant. One of the tests that we're going to do, and that's going to be an interesting one for a senior person, whether they're ready to join a startup. One of the qualities that we're testing, we call it fighting spirit. Basically make people call a restaurant, a random restaurant that we just find online, and order a dish that no Chinese restaurant would normally have, which is an omelette.
Okay.
Omelette is a normal thing in the West. he actually stress not know what an omelet is. So that's the first level. So they need to be able to do that. Okay. Now the next level would be we say, well, ask them to add fruits, which is, you know, it's just an extension of thinking that people are not willing to do that. But we need people to be able to kind of ask for things that people are not used to break through these mental walls.
Yeah.
And you know, to do that. And then the next level is to make the restaurant add the fruits that the restaurant doesn't have. So that basically means that someone from the restaurant, and it's a cold call, right?
Yeah.
Someone has to go to a fruit shop, buy the fruits, come back, and add all of that.
Wow.
And
if you look at our team, so there's one young team member that we recently had from Taiwan, and so he managed to send ingredients to the restaurant. So basically, he was sending eggs to eggs and milk to the restaurant that didn't have it, and essentially instructing the chef of how to make an omelet on the phone, and he got an omelet. So.
But it's not. You see, it's pretty much how you deal with big companies as well. Like this guy had to. He called us someone who picks up the phone and you know, I'm not entitled to make any of the decisions. We just have the menu. So he had to pass through the gatekeeper.
Yeah, of course.
With the company. Then after that, he was speaking to the manager, and the manager was saying, well, but the chef doesn't know how to do the omelet. So he had to persuade the manager to pass the phone to the chef, who's normally busy with making food, right?
Yeah.
He actually taught the chef how to do the omelet.
We got the omelet in the end. I mean, it was hideous to taste, but
all of us puts in the omelet, it's terrible.
That's pretty awesome. It's a unique way of finding new people. It's pretty cool.
It's just one of the skills that you have to have in people in the startup, because it's an established business. You constantly have to break through this mental walls, because you go out in the world and, you know, there's people, the way that people think, they expect certain ways that businesses run, and when you come up with something new, they're not necessarily ready for that. So we need to have people who are able to get through those walls.
Gotcha. Well, I thank you guys so much for your time. I don't see many different questions. Are there any other things that you want to share that maybe we didn't get a chance to speak about, to share to our viewers? I know we're streaming right now on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, so there's a lot of viewers in some different places. So anything that you want to share, and of course, thank you for your time.
On the hiring process, we're actually pretty open about that. Those positions that we are hiring for, they're published in our official Telegram channel. They're published, and so people can see whom we're looking for. And we're actually very happily with, you know, speaking the crypto language, share a bounty for anyone referring the right person to us.
Okay.
It's $1,000 bounty for anyone whom we actually hire later on. So, you know, look through the networks if you think that anyone fits the positions for the people that we're looking for. You know, we'd be very happy to have them apply.
But I mean, the positions, I mean, you know, the requirements to list there are made by us, not by some HR person. So they are the requirements that we're looking for, right? So I mean, if we say that, you know, the person has to be fluent in Mandarin Chinese, and it's just a requirement that, you know, has to be there. Right? So it's not just nice to have. So,
what positions are you looking for right now? What kind of person?
It's one is sales, so that's sales related to baby food. That's essentially placing our shelf in baby stores. Some former regional sales director for a baby food company would be an ideal position here. One is digital marketing, so that's the person who is who does digital marketing for consumer products. One is a product manager. So this is a person who's going to be an expert in all the features and the development, kind of balancing the technology and the economics of the whole product. We want to strengthen the team with a full stack developer. And then there is an operations manager as well. That's basically a person who would run a lot of different tasks, from accounting to finance to control to logistics to, you know, there's a bunch of things that the person would run.
Okay.
So, the product manager.
Product management. Okay.
Yeah, and so another thing that I wanted to share, just some people seem to get quiet in Telegram. So people were raising complaints, and you know, I don't know how far this is going to reach, but we just wanted to reiterate that, you know, we're quiet in the Telegram just because we're busy doing business development, you know, and on kind of growing the company, meeting people, hiring people, and doing these things. So I mean, once we have something to announce, we'll announce it, and, you know, as long as we announce it, it's going to be a real, genuine, tangible partnership, or whatever the now means. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for being so generous with your time. I know that's how I got in touch with you guys, was through Telegram, and I think I talked to both of you in there. So thank you guys for your time, and anyone looking to get into... Go ahead.
We actually had quite a few requests for interviews or for reviews.
Okay.
And then people say something like, "Oh, let's do the interview, and then can you send me some tokens?" So the answer is no, we don't do paid interviews. So for anyone watching and thinking, any of the YouTubers watching this and thinking, maybe I could contact and get some tokens. No, just don't waste your time. We're not going to do any paid interviews.
All right. Well, you heard it here first. So thank you for your time. If anyone's looking to get into WaBi, it's available on Binance and Ether Delta. And thank you guys so much for your time. I look forward to seeing the plan and how all of it unfolds.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good rest of the night.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Thanks for watching, guys. Let's end the stream. Where is the outro video?